From the News Channel 5 network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. Today on the show, we host the third of Nashville's 7 mayoral candidates for one-on-one, in-depth conversations about their candidacies. Our guest this week is David Fox. David, thanks for coming on the show.
Glad to be invited.
We begin all the interviews with a simple but very foundational question. Why are you running for mayor?
I'm running for mayor because after having served on the school board for 4 or 5 years, I started thinking about it when I was back at work and felt like I wanted to find another way to be useful to our city. I was a Boy Scout when I was a kid, and kind of the whole mantra of leaving your campsite cleaner than you found it is sort of what sticks with me, and just want to see, like most people in Nashville, can I help leave Nashville better than I found it?
Now, there are no term limits on the school board. Why didn't you just stay there and run for re-election when you were there before?
I came to the school board in 2006 when the State Department of Education was just about to take over the school district. It was pretty much a non-functional system, and as a result, when I became elected school board chair, it became pretty close to a full-time job, and I already had a full-time job. So for the last 2 years, I was spending about 80 to 90% of my time doing school board work. It was very fulfilling. Ultimately, I think we got a lot done, brought in a much better superintendent. But ultimately, I was sort of eager to get back to my my job that pays the light bills at home. So,
now your campaign theme is preserving the Nashville Way.
That's right.
Define what the Nashville Way means exactly, and why is electing you something that's going to preserve it?
Sure. When I think of the Nashville Way, I think, how does Nashville differ from some of the other cities we've all lived in and traveled in? And to me, what's amazing is Nashville could have grown as much as it has over the last 30 years, attracting people from all over the world, from all different cultures, but it's still just an amazingly nice, civil place. When I have friends who come here on business, when our people who come down here for tourist affairs, they'll all comment and say, man, people in Nashville are just so nice. And that's what you and I remember when we were growing up here, and I think that's really our calling card. And so that's the issue, that's the Nashville Way, and it's because I'm afraid that is being put in jeopardy now is why I ultimately decided to run for mayor.
Now, you blame some of that loss of the Nashville Way on the rapid growth that's going on in Nashville. But is that theme sort of looking backward for the city rather than looking forward? Nashville always likes to pride itself on being a progressive, forward-looking city, and this kind of looks like we want to stay in the past.
No, not at all, because I like growth. The growth we've had has made this city so much better. I mean, it's culturally more rich, more prosperous, more job opportunities, so I like the growth. My point is that we're not on autopilot. At this point, we have to recognize that our population has grown so much that we don't have the infrastructure in place to accommodate everything. And so unless we move urgently on transit and sewers and water pipes and sidewalks and the basics of our city, we're at risk of seeing our quality of life decline. And I don't want us to do that. I think we can get through there.
Now, this loss of civility, isn't that something that's going on all over the country, all over the world to some degree? It's not something that's necessarily just special to Nashville.
No, I think you're right. I think there's definitely a coarsening of our culture that we see everywhere. But again, I think Nashville stands out. I think we're resisting that trend more than any other community that I've seen. And again, with all the growth we've had and how we've been able to retain this Nashville way of life of just a basic friendliness and neighborliness is extraordinary. And so I feel very encouraged about it.
The thing about Nashville is people are always concerned we're going to become another Atlanta, and you've mentioned that in this potential loss of the Nashville Way. But on your campaign website, you also mentioned New York City, where you say they managed to get back what was special for them and prove to people under Mayor Giuliani that they weren't the rudest city in the country.
Right.
So it's okay. You don't want to be Atlanta, but it's okay to be New York?
Well, I see Nashville kind of like as a "you are here" map. You know, growth and quality of life typically move up, and then at some point, if cities aren't careful, the growth ends up destroying the quality of life. That happened in New York about 25 years ago. It was completely off the rails. I've traveled to New York a lot over the last 30 years, and the civility fell apart, the cleanliness fell apart, and then they got very good leadership in Giuliani, then Bloomberg, who restored it. Atlanta, similarly, coming out of school in '83, that was where everybody went to school. It was the happening place. It was the it city. But they didn't move quickly enough to stay in front of their traffic problems and their parking problems. And now most people I know, while there's still a good economic opportunity in Atlanta, the quality of life has suffered because their transit and parking is so bad.
Now, you mentioned your work in the past and being on the school board, but your bio on your campaign website is kind of odd. Normally people have several paragraphs of what they've done professionally, where they went to school, what they've done, and everything else during their lives. But yours is basically, you're mentioning that you're a candidate for mayor, you're a businessman, you're a Little League coach, and you're an all-around good guy. Did you want to keep it that short?
Well, we've updated about 2 days ago, and we'll have a few more updates. But yeah, just speaking with our strategy, you see a lot of candidates do a lot of talking about their bio, and I don't do that as much. I have things I've been involved in and proud of. I've been involved in business for 32 years, and we talk about it, but I don't think people are really that fascinated by getting a granular, blow by blow of your career in the last 30 years.
You mentioned the school board was dysfunctional, perhaps, and not functioning very well when you were there. There were some people who might tell you that's still the case today. Are you concerned you're being confused as sort of being people with a school board background, that you're still a part of that somehow? People don't know a whole lot about people when they first see them on the ballot.
Well, that's definitely a fair point, but we have in our campaign, and really as mayor, a kind of a process of being disarmingly honest. School board experience was an important one for me, so I need to talk about it, I think. The school board has a history. We've had an elected school board for about 32 years. And unfortunately, very unfortunately, in fact, because I think this is one of the most important organizations in our city, it's had a history of being relatively unsuccessful and ineffective. And occasionally, people pull together, they act coherently, provide good leadership, and it makes a big difference. But unfortunately, there's a lot of divisiveness, there's a lack of unity that ends up undermining things.
A lot of your opponents started their TV ads a good bit earlier. Some of them started back in March. You only started a couple of weeks ago. I've only seen one ad from your campaign so far, and it doesn't quite have the reach and frequency, say, of a Bill Freeman campaign.
That's right.
Did you wait too long to get on TV? Do you wish now you'd gotten on earlier?
Definitely not. We're following the plan we created. When we were discussing our campaign strategy 8 or 9 months ago, we said, well, there's 2 races that are going to go on. There's the first race that a lot of the candidates will be distracted by, which is the 2,000 or 3,000 people in Nashville who for the last year, all they've talked about is who's going to run for mayor and who's going to win. And our point, my campaign manager said, we can't let that distract us. He said, people will go with ads in March and April and they're going to waste a lot of money. We're not going to do that because most people end up making their decisions about who they're going to elect for mayor about 6 weeks out. And
but
that's
several
why
of your opponents are running multiple ads out at the same time. You've only had one. Are you going to pick up the pace a little bit on that?
Oh yeah, we've got the second one in the can. We'll have multiple. But again, all of our TV exposure is coming in the last 7 weeks, and that's what we planned. We have money in the bank, and we were just sitting waiting to do it.
Now, I understand you have spent a lot of your money in field work and a lot of canvassing. Tell us about that, and why is that important? Why is it important to knock on people's doors?
I don't think this has ever happened in Nashville. We've knocked, as of yesterday, on 40,000 doors. And it's more than just knocking on a door. It's building a relationship and following up. Every time I knock on a door, I say, well, what's the first thing on your mind? What's your concern? And so for me, it has left me with so much better informed about what the people really want to see happen. I'm running for mayor not so that I can inflict whatever ideas I have on the city. I want to help the city execute what we want to do as a group. And so as I've spent the time reaching out and just learning, it's put me in a good position to do it, and I think it's making a huge difference in our campaign strategy.
David Fox is our guest today. He's a candidate for mayor of Nashville. Back to continue our conversation with him after this break.